Good morning, everyone. It is the morning over here, and probably where everyone else is at that's gonna watch this video. But yeah, this is the Money Store. This is a channel where we talk about La Luz del Mundo and other happenings in it. This is my good friend Julian that we're gonna have a discussion today. We've been talking for like many years over La Luz del Mundo, and I really always appreciate the time that we get to spend together on and off the times that we're recording about this stuff. So yeah, Julian, it's good to have you.
Hey man, how's it going, man? I'm glad to be back real quick in the video. Have
Yeah,
fun.
for sure. Yeah, I'm really happy to be able to talk to you. I think about you all the time. I'm reading all this stuff. I'm like doing work and I do Zoom calls here and there, but this is one of, this is the type of Zoom call where I'm just, talking my head off and listening my head off too, with you and what you're thinking about. Um, before we get started and before we keep going, I welcome people to leave comments, interact with the video. We have digital overlords in this world that we live in, and you gotta, respond to what can be called the algorithms, and it's helpful to like these videos, share them, copy the link, etc. Leave a comment, contribute to the discussion after the discussion. I always want to learn and be informed of almost anything and everything, including people's thoughts and sentiments on this kind of stuff. Um, yeah. So do you have anything else to say in terms of an introduction or yeah, anything you want to say right off the bat?
No, I mean, not really, dude. I've just been, what went through my head was like I wonder what how members feel nowadays, Like I just wonder because I haven't gone to obviously I haven't gone to like, inside
Mhm.
like a building or been really around like the activities or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I sometimes like I wonder like, like if they feel a certain type of way when they have to like select the tamales or they're doing like an activity and it's like is it awkward? Like I wonder how it is. I don't know. I feel like
Mhm.
some members probably feel like you know um
It's like the elephant in the room, like I so like you were saying, I haven't gone to a temple, a church, any sort of facility that's La Luz del Mundo. I've definitely driven by a handful, but just driven, never even walked up close to them. Um, I I haven't been to any of these facilities in so long, and I really haven't looked back in the way that that can be said in a certain way of saying that. Um, but in driving past them, I am sometimes curious about going and speaking to people and seeing, and just at least just seeing with my eyes what a certain setting looks like. And you bringing that up, it prompted me to look up the closest church that is nearby to me, and I found it, and it is on a fantastic piece of real estate. But this is the place that I am in is the Northeast, and like I guess there can for sure be members out here. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a major city. I'm I am a distance from the major city, but I'm still basic. I still say I am close to it, and it's on a fantastic piece of real estate, and it's kind of a little surprising to me that this church is out here. I want to look up the reviews for it. And then also, thinking back to actual people that I know that are still attending these churches, maybe attending, a certain church regularly, and then every once in a while going to another nearby church, in the other town, or maybe going to a church in Mexico. There's an elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room is that, the leader, the leadership has been like, kind of decapitated. That the church must have lost a lot of people. Yeah, I'll go ahead and stop talking.
no,
Mhm.
yeah. I always wonder like how members feel when all these properties came out, when this whole when he got arrested and started investigating. And like bro, there's so much stuff that I didn't even know about, like all the all the homes he owns, like all the
Yeah, yeah,
properties
for
and
sure.
um not just in LA but like in Mexico by the beach. Like it's crazy. I didn't even know about, I guess, all the sports cars, or the exotic cars they have. I want to say in some ranch. And
Silver Wolf Ranch in
yeah,
Texas. Yeah.
yeah,
Let
like
me write that down. Yeah, go on.
like just I always wonder, like, that's, I mean, I sorry, I guess it's not like illegal to have, a lot of materialistic things, but like, I mean, for an apostle, it just like bugs me, bro. Like, how can I say this? It bugs me so much because members wanna, like, even myself, we would brag about, like, we have the true apostle, like he fits every description. But if you really think about it, like,
Mhm.
would an apostle really need like mansions, and not just one, but like a few, and all these exotic cars, and all that stuff? It's worth a lot of money, right? And I remember like seeing, like, going to, like, when I first went to, like, Santa Cena, and you see like all the members, like, that go, they attend, and they get into debt, or they barely have enough to even like eat. And it's like, man, bro, like it's so unbalanced, like it's amazing how, like, the Joaquin family is like in the standard of, like,
So wealthy, just
yeah,
wealthy.
and the members are like, it just makes me like trip out. I don't
Hmm.
know, why it came to my head right now, but it makes me wonder, like, do members feel anything about that? Like, how do they feel about that? It's just like a red flag. It's something that's not normal. What would like the apostles from the Bible say? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Um, it's just it's just one thing out of so many that you don't need. You don't really, now that I'm out and I think freely. Like, I always tell myself sometimes, like, that was it gonna really take Nason to be in jail for me to snap out of it? Like, would I still be in it if this guy never got caught? Will I ever, like, all these things that come to my head now about, like, the mansions, the money, flying with young girls, all this and that. Like, would it ever make me snap, like, years to come? It's kind of crazy because I was really like, I'm gonna say the word brainwashed. I was really like you know like I was in. It's just a trip, but man, I hope members really start to, like, think about, like, this stuff. It's,
Hmm.
not just like the whole case, but just everything in general, like the big picture. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, and I always think about how, like, we never really, like the overdose that we did for church, like the work of God. It was really always just like making money, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It was always just finding ways to make money. Um, we never really preached honestly at all. Like, and it's always like the new members that come, it's always like a family member. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is my uncle, or this is like my relative. Like, it's always like a family person. Like, at least where I was, it was never really like a random person that would walk in and just wanted to visit the church.
Yeah.
It was never the case. It's always like family, because it's, like, it's weird. Like half of the church were like related, bro. It was weird. Like, it wasn't like a normal congregation where, like, different people, like, just come visit and like they leave, and it was just, I don't know. It was just like, I trip out.
Mhm.
I kind of like to trip out on that. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I definitely see what you mean in terms of we wrote about talking about to talk about a number of things, and we haven't gotten to them, but still, like, right off the bat, I know what you mean in terms of living our lives, away from those temples, and trying to reflect back on the experiences that we were in, what we saw, and what we just did not question that was, could be said was right in front of our faces. Silver Wolf Ranch, I've been there. I've been there like a number of times. Probably never spent a night there. I've never spent a night there, but I knew what that was, and I knew about a collection of cars that was there, but I never exactly like questioned it as a child. And I think the last time I probably saw it was maybe like, let's say, eighth grade in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
And I never really questioned it, but it probably did stay in the back of my head. And I never said anything. There's there's a difference between the church and its ministers, who gets to be part of that, who were the overseers, who were like, pulling the strings. And then there's also the members at large. And like you were saying, a lot of those members can be family. And it's all, and like we were saying, like off camera, I was saying, so many of these people are Latino, are Mexican, Salvadorian, etc. Just all sorts of people, and that they um would be like clotted in terms of like their families. I remember the church that I was at, a major one, but it's still like a lot. I knew who the major families were, and these people had, you could say like at least a dozen people in the church. And the church, not everything that happens, in La Luz del Mundo is necessarily bad. I um I'll remind people that I'm in Texas, and I know that it provides like a sense of a sense of community, familiarity with a new environment, a new town to move to. That it gives you, people have religious questions, and people go and to these places to have them answered, and integrate into their communities to keep getting answers. And they get good things out of it. But then at the same time, things that you and I have discussed in recent years is about how bothered we are by the fact that um, there would be weird exploitations happening that were voluntary, and we won't, and then aren't necessarily like illegal or morally wrong. But there's something strange about like asking all these people to set up fundraisers every so often and donating a lot of money, um, um, traveling, putting a lot of effort on themselves to like get rid of material goods. Like I've heard the stories too about like selling your fridge and selling all these major things that you have in order to get one ticket to go to Guadalajara that one year. And you'll probably sleep on the floor. I've seen dozens, hundreds of people over my lifetime who were like sleeping on the floor, go to Hermosa Provincia, sleeping on roofs, in camping tents, but on roofs, um, all that stuff. I know that, and
Wow. Yeah. You
and
know,
I'm okay, with people, exploring their religious questions. But it sucks that looking back on it, that there was so much negative that was happening in front of us. Mhm.
um, I remember I was already out at this point, but when COVID came and it was like COVID was barely happening, and they had like a Santa Cena, I want to say in the U.S. like in January or like I think before.
February, no, they would have it
I,
in February and in August.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I was thinking about like the whole virus and how in La Luz del Mundo, right? Like when they do the celebration of the Santa Cena or whatever, they give like the bread. And then dude, I barely thought like I think I've talked about this before, but like how I think it's disgusting now that I think about it. So they give you the wine, you drink from it, and then they'll like just like the little thing just kind of like wipe it down,
Yeah.
give it to the next person, and then
Yeah.
the next person, and there's like thousands of people there, and everybody's have at least like I want to say from a cup, maybe like 50 people get a drink, and then they refill it, and then another 50 people from the same cup, and you don't even know what this guy's hygiene is like. Like it was just weird, bro. Now that I think about it, it's kind of disgusting, like all the unsanitary things they did. Um, yeah, it
But
was.
it's the way I view that is that I view that ceremonial, sipping of the cup and breaking and eating of the bread in the Santa Cena, the major um celebration within La Luz del Mundo. I view that ceremony and carrying it out and getting everybody to sip from the cup and everything as being like an act of, ceremonial, like, investment from these people, like getting an investment from those people. Because, in the way that the doctrine works out is they say that, uh, when you do the ceremony, you renew your, crudely speaking, like your contract with God for the next year, and that maybe the next year you won't be able to go. And
Yeah,
that's interesting because, like, in the US, I knew a bunch of Latinos and mostly Mexicans that are over here and that can't go to Mexico to have the bread and the wine and actually renew it. They
yeah,
because of their immigration status. And then only in recent years, they've done it like way in the past for sure, but then like only in recent years has the church like really tried more to have the Santa Cena ceremony happen in the US. Like, for example, in California, in San Bernardino in 2018, like that was all US. A bunch of Mexican people went from Mexico, but still it was mostly for the US people to go and travel there to take part in that. Another thing that I was thinking about in terms of the unsanitary point that you brought up about the Santa Cena and looking back at that was, do you remember swine flu in 2010 or 2009?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Because I remember that swine flu had happened, or I don't remember like the trajectory or how much had gone on, but it came from somewhere in Africa. I believe was no, actually no, not swine flu. I'm thinking of Ebola. But anyways, swine flu was going around in like 2010, 2009, somewhere there. And I remember at that Santa Cena, like I specifically remember that there were people stationed passing around hand sanitizer, and there was other minor sanitary measures put in place in order to, deter anything about swine flu happening. But going back to like the larger point, what is going on in members' heads. I remember, um, it's tragic that like COVID is a factor within like the whole um, craziness of La Luz del Mundo the past couple of years. Because I remember like when the craziness happened in the summer of 2019, and it was just maximum like levels of crazy. But then, for me, even just personally, not going to church and all that stuff, the pandemic happened, and it was just this other just world of um uncertainty and massive change that, the members are experiencing differently, and they have to, they live through it differently. There's members, from the start of COVID, there's members that have seen it as um a way for God to like punish humanity for what's been going on lately.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think also ever since Nason got went to jail, ever since he went to jail, I think like the church got more weird. Like I don't know if you noticed like them, well, obviously they were making like transmissions because of COVID, right? They couldn't go into the church, so they would put like they would have to watch it through a transmission. And I think it got more weird. Well, it was weird because they couldn't find ways to like make Nason look good, but then again, they it's like the more you mentioned it, the more weird it sounds because like you're like just trying to at this point you're obvious. It's obvious like they're just wanna just make him look good, but it's kind of like the more you say it, it's like you get the point. But then like they started making these like transmissions for kids, right? With like a like a white chalkboard in the background, and it came up to my mind because
Yeah,
I'm looking at Virginia's Twitter. I like to watch her Twitter, so
yeah,
she a lot of good stuff, and she posted like this one of these transmissions of like this.
I saw
It's
that the other day.
like yeah, it's like a study for like little kids. But I remember watching one, dude, and there was this guy on that transmission, right? I think I have it saved on my phone, but he's talking to kids, right? Because it's for like little kids, and they have like the little apple, and it's like you could tell it's for kids. But this guy, bro, he's literally telling kids, um, "You are not brainwashed. We are not
Yeah,
brainwashed. We know who the apostle." And it's like, bro, you're telling these to little kids, like teach them like whatever else, a little lesson on like whatever. Like what you have to really take it that far to tell the little kids that you guys are not brainwashed. You guys are not brainwashed. Like that's so weird, dude. That is so weird. The kids probably don't even know what's going on with Nason. You know what I mean? Like they're 5, 6. Like, yo, I thought it was like extreme. Yeah, I thought that was wild to see
Yeah,
how
let me say that the thing that you're talking about is you went to Virginia Beckett's Twitter, and I saw the tweet the other day. I still call it Twitter. I saw the tweet the other day where she talked to where she posted a little like snippet of a video that was held online. I didn't know that it was held online, but I know videos that LLDM members or the LLDM organization puts out on you know on social media, on the web, to spread, that teaches little kids. It's like little studies for little kids, and
yeah,
it yeah, like you were saying, the people are just like trying to give little in baby bite-sized pieces the doctrine, the dogma of like, Nason is magical, this church is magical, it's one of one, um everyone else is wrong, et cetera, et cetera, and that's as kids, and then it builds up into like, in their later years, or it can build up into later years, people like you and I are trying to stall, the growth of this organization and this like set of ideas. And
right.
yeah, you're pointing to is these little kids being fed that set of ideas as little kids, as if it was like cocoa melon. Like I've never seen a minute of cocoa melon, but I know what cocoa melon is. Like I know what children's education and sort of educational time looks like. What else was I going to say? And I was going to say that um, there's there's wealth disparities within the church between the Joaquin family, other higher ups, other thing, and then even just within the ministry, there's a disparity between Nason, which apparently owns, that as members must understand that people need to own things, and people, certain people on paper and in courtrooms and in all that stuff, have to own properties, have to own cars, credit cards to, that are tied to flights, private jets, etc. People must know that he has a lot of money, that ultimately, if anyone on earth is going to be in charge of anybody's money, it's going to be this guy. And they must know that that's happening. And like, the collection of cars in Silver Wolf Ranch, that thing is real. Like I've seen it with my own eyes. I think I remember that. I can pull up the picture in my head. Like I know I've seen that as a kid, but then like later on, I was never just bringing it up. I was never like asking like, well, why does he just have like a fuck ton of cars? Like, why don't you liquidate that and go build the fucking church like right there for people to go to, you
For
know?
real.
Or
Yeah.
like in Guadalajara, I've always wanted to ask you about going to Guadalajara and what it would look like for you to go again. But they those people own houses, and people, let's say, marry into the Joaquin family, and there's like there has to be an understanding of wealth being transferred over generations within the church, without the church, as tied to like the mythology of the church. Um, yeah, I think there's like a street somewhere in the Hermosa Provincia, and the beautiful province in Guadalajara, where I think it's like all the Joaquin brothers own a house, and it's not like the nicest, biggest house. It's not a mansion or anything, but it's like among the nicest houses in that neighborhood, and they just like own all of them. And
Yeah, I think I heard a pastor talk
yeah,
about how Samuel had told order ministers that they weren't allowed to like buy any houses in that area, a certain area, because he was gonna they were all gonna be for his kid. Like each one of his kids was gonna have a house in that particular section, and yeah, something like that. I don't know if that's exactly kind of relating to what you're talking about, but
but still,
I know.
they just
Yeah,
own all the shit. They just own a bunch of stuff.
yeah, and you would think like they shouldn't own anything. I mean,
They
these
should be
people.
like monks, they should be just
Yeah,
like just own
yeah.
nothing. Like if but yeah, sorry, go on.
No, yeah, for sure, dude. What was I gonna say? Yeah, well, going back to like, how I guess what I'm trying to like um sort of like establish is how things have changed from back then to like now, like I feel like church now is more corny. Um, I feel like it's awkward to talk about Nason. I feel like it's awkward to have a Dominical and talk about infidelity when this guy was obviously having affairs, admitted to it in document in paperwork, court paperwork. It's like literally there. And even if members are still in, like, it rings a bell, right? Like it reminds them, or it kind of puts a scab. And I say that because most of these people, they want to play the part like, no, we trust them, we believe it, it ain't true. So I don't need to like do my research. I don't need to do like I don't need to like really find out the truth. And that's kind of wild, because for years they would always tell us in church, like, it's always good to find the truth. I mean, referring to the Bible, to read it, indagar las escrituras and all this, and you always have to be sure, what I mean, the truth this, the truth that, and yeah, like, but when it's about this, it's like, nah, like, I think that they get away with bring, kind of like using like their faith to like just trust him, and you don't need to do all that. Um, yeah, I think, man, I think I wish I could kind of like, sometimes you ever get that thought, like, kind of like not go back in time, but what if like I never got out, but yeah, I feel how I feel, but I just never left, just to see how things are internally, like inside, and what they talk about, and like just not to like be like sneaky, or I'm gonna plan an attack. No, just to like know, like, how's the environment now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
for sure. I've definitely thought about, what, like I was like I've written down for weeks, and I've never gotten around to asking you, but like, for example, what would it look like for you to visit Hermosa Provincia right now, and not say, like, not go around like saying you're a member, but just, what would it take for you to go back, and just, would you go back? Would you
Honestly,
go patronize, etc.? And then but let me get back to your question really quick. Yeah, so I for sure also think about, like, what if I was still in there? What if I was as, not to say badly, but like, brainwashed as other people, and I was still in there? I would for sure would not be tolerating, like, I don't know. I'd like to think that I wouldn't be tolerating a lot of awkwardness, like you're pointing out, that is just like glaring, in the church, that, there's an elephant in the room, a gigantic elephant. Um, I don't know what that looks like, but, I'd like to think that I wouldn't be there. And, that's why, I put the time in, with you, to talk about the stuff, to try to, get people out. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
oh, I was gonna answer like the question, like if I went to Hermosa Provincia right now, how would I feel? I think I'd feel honestly like not scared, but I'd probably be like a little more alert and cautious, because I don't know if I ever told you, but my first year when I went to that place, um, I remember walking up right in the main, where all the white buildings are. Is that to call that calzada, or yeah, the calzada,
Yeah,
right?
La Calzada, and it's named after Samuel.
Yeah, and I remember walking, dude, and as soon as I started like reaching the white buildings, right, like when you're entering, like five guys approached me, bro, with like suits, like I don't know what the hell was going on, bro. Like they got my little case with my Bible. They took that, they like yanked it, bro, and they yanked. I had a little suitcase. They got that. They opened my stuff. They unzipped everything. They asked me who I was and what was I doing. And I was like, now, back then, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was just like a security measure. Like, even though I did think it was kind of weird, like a little too extreme. Like, why do you have to search me like that? Like, who first? You can't even do that. Like, how can you just take my stuff and search me like that? Um, and what saved me, or what kind of let me loose, was I had this credential that they made us pay for and buy. Like, it had to have like your name, your ID, and blah blah blah, like where you're from or whatever, to know who you are. And I showed them that, and they were like, oh, okay. But they ain't even said like God bless you, or like 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 the culture in Luz del Mundo, like they kiss your hand and like, oh, like nothing, bro. It was like these guys were just like looking for somebody. I don't know, like confused me with somebody, but it was just weird. And now that I know what I know, Nazon's, guaruras and security and all this stuff, all this violence, right? All this stuff that they've done to people and what they do to silence people, like bro, like I think those guys were like one, I don't know, like maybe some they were not good guys. I know that for sure. Because you don't act like that in the happiest place on earth. You know what I'm saying? Especially if like it's just random and weird, right? So to answer that question, how would I feel to go back now? I don't know, man. I wouldn't feel safe at all, honestly. Especially with the murder of Silvia Orozco, in front of her house, like in front of her mom, bro, like in front of the church, bro, like it's crazy. I think members need to like not forget that. So I don't know. I wouldn't be safe at all, bro. I don't think that place is safe at all. 100%. I feel like it's dangerous. If you're not a guy on the good side, it's dangerous. I want to say Mopar, right? Mopar,
Yeah.
YouTube
Luis
Mopar
Carlos Reyes. Yeah.
when he said that he went back years ago, right, like 30 years ago, to do like a kind of like a documentary on the church and ask people questions, and how he said how he was being followed, bro. And if you're an outsider and they know that you don't belong there, like to have people following you around, dude, like that is weird. That's weird. You know, they're hiding something. Something's up. You don't just do that. It's like you're entering like how can I say it? It's like if you're entering some type of like a village, and they don't want outsiders. They only want people their mind thinking, and you know what I mean? Only if you're invited. And obviously it's only politicians that are invited by Nason and Samuel, and it's crazy how some of these politicians are dead now, dude. I was looking at this politician that took pictures with Samuel, with Nason. He was the ex-governor of Jalisco, I think, and like he
Yeah.
died. He got killed. He got
Shit.
murdered.
I know his last name. I've seen his posters like all over
It's
Aristoteles.
so, it, bro,
Aristoteles.
yeah, isn't it weird how like this guy who was like with Nason at his house, dude, eating up there, up and like sitting next to Nason eating, and like this guy died, like he got killed, murdered. Like, what kind of things was he doing? And I wonder what kind of business he had with Nason, like at the table, at the big table with the big dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
that's wild. Um, yeah, I remember when I saw that he was dead, I got like chills. Like, dude,
Yeah,
not involved in like heavy stuff, you know. Right now it's just what we know with the whole stuff, but from all the stories I've heard, like from pastors who got out, and people who know how this family works and operates, like they're deep, they have power, and with power you can get away with a lot of stuff, especially in Mexico. So yeah, so just kind of to wrap
for sure.
that up, how would I feel to go back? Like, I don't know, man. I'm on YouTube talking smack about these people. Like, I wouldn't want to go to that area for sure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's how I'm eating right now. I'm really hungry. But I know what you mean. I've been um I've been thinking about this question because I haven't gone since 2017, 2016, 2017 for sure. And then in 2018 they had the Santa Cena in San Bernardino, California. And so, that's when the US people, I guess, would start going to those things, would start going to, those Santa Cenas. And
Yeah,
that's when I stopped going to Guadalajara. I would love to go. I have family there. I've walked those streets. I've been there, a certain amount of time throughout the year. I have not been there for super duper extended periods of time, like people that actually live there. But I'm connected to that, and I would also feel unsafe. I feel like I would be kind of known. I would be kind of seen or noticed, or at least look different. Going in. Um, mm, I
yeah,
wouldn't, I wouldn't feel good going there. But in terms of like we were talking about earlier before we started recording, I was talking about how, I read a lot of history, and I know a lot of the stuff, and I think about I remember when Aristoteles was assassinated, and I just went to the story really quick to see the details. But I remember when that happened, and I definitely thought about it. And how it scared me, that this stuff would definitely scare me. But we talk about this because we want members to realize that, this is not like the Disney, the La Luz del Mundo Disneyland that it is purported to be. It's a kind of a rough neighborhood that is not as shiny and beautiful as it could seem, to our eyes, but then also like foundationally, like under it and the government around it, and like the violence that can be brought in, and that could happen, right in there, that is possible. And even apart from the violence, the ideas that the church like peddles and puts out there contributes to the situations that we're contributes to, is at the root of the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Because members were taught to insulate themselves through their families, with their families or away from their families, however, to insulate themselves to these communities, to these tight knit communities where, bodyguards can be around and can like spot who doesn't belong. And that, people can start to have these crazy religious ideas, not to say it offensively, but, these are the religious ideas that they have there are not palatable to the rest of the world, but to the people that it does get into and to the lives of, it wraps them up in this. And it's tragic that, we're in the situation that we're in, and it's tied to people's religious devotion and like exploiting that. And then like, even though I wrote it down earlier, um even though there's like wealth disparities between the people high up in the church and the people down below, um who have to sleep on the floor when they go to Guadalajara, even though there's that, like, people still look past it, and the perversion of those wealth disparities, like, is part of what is not good here. But like, I don't say it as often enough, but I try to stay optimistic. I try to stay optimistic that like one day, people like you and I can return to Guadalajara, can return to that neighborhood, and it won't be weird or just awkward in the way that it has been. As we look back on it, I'm optimistic that we can help reason people out of, or convince people out of this thing that they were or were not convinced into, whether they were born into this thing, or got into this thing as like an adult or a teenager, etc. um that there's nothing wrong with looking for religious answers, but it turns out that the place that you found them, that you think that you found them, and that has like enveloped itself into your life, it's not that. And yeah, where
Oh, I
to go
remember
back.
now. I think so going back to like what you were saying, like you mentioned that the differences, the disparities, right, between the Joaquin family and members sleeping on the floor, right? I feel like a big part of that, and why members like don't see it, even though it's on plain sight, because they're surrounded by so many more people, more members that are on the floor, right? It's like when it's kind of like when they're in church, and they all think one thing, right? It becomes like a normal thing because it gets normalized because everybody's saying the same thing, everybody's believing the same thing, everybody's like uh they all have that, they're getting fed this narrative at the same time, everybody all over the churches. It's like that's how they control them, because you can't have, like, think about it. So going back to like them sleeping on the floor, I think it falls into place too. Like if you had like members, or just one member that had to sleep on the floor, and everybody else is good, that member would be like, "Yo, why am I on the floor?" You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I in a little tent up here? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would like snap something in their brain, like oh, like unwire something. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
just they need to think like they need to think like that, not think. I heard a quote one time, and it said, "When everybody's thinking the same thing, then nobody's thinking, because everybody's like on the same program." You know what I'm saying? So it's like, who's thinking then? You know? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I know what you mean. It's about like, what are the dynamics that come together that help to um get someone
And
to, if not snapped, and like, come to the realization that something is wrong, and that, something in front of me is not what it should be.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like it's all the same thing, bro. I have this buddy at work, dude, and like he's a religious dude, right? And I would ask him questions about his like religion or like his like whatever, right? Like how they operate and what they do and whatnot. And I like one thing about what they have like studies, like a certain topic of like whatever the Bible, and then a person would like talk about the topic and say this and say that and what he thinks, and then they have this thing where like the other guy needs to find flaws, needs to find errors and point things out at the same time. So it's like an actual like a how can I say this? Like it ain't just his narrative, but it's like every like like it's an actual like there's different angles to it. Everybody gets to think. You know what I'm saying? Or it makes you think too. Like, you know what I mean? And it's funny how because that made me think like in La Luz del Mundo, like in the Sundays or whenever, like it would be so disrespectful to just get up and say, wait, no, that's wrong, or wait, I disagree with that. Like, even though they say like they're not, they don't do that, they don't like just they do not let members not talk, but it's kind of like a practice that's been on forever. Like members just don't say nothing, they just like sit there. And worst off is also when like the minister says, Amen, like, like, do you guys agree? Amen, and everybody says, oh, amen, like it's like weird. Like, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to just point that out, but
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I've said this before in another video, but there's no like culture of debate in like the church. The church just says it's completely 1,000% right, and all the new material, all the new lore, new teachings come from whoever's at the top, the apostle in turn, but then also um people below him get to distribute different teachings, but like at some point it becomes all the same, bullshit. And that's when they start using members to go up and do a church session, and um and that happened to be a place where the church member has to run church. The lights are on and everyone gets to gather, and this guy's gonna it's agreed that this person is going to run what's going on. um and I bring that up because like um what is it new that you can say up there? You just have to regurgitate everything else that everyone else says. And the thing that we're trying to point people to is that the sort of the lack of a culture of debate that you're in that church, and the lack of like of even say like scholarship in that church, or even just imagination and thinking in that church is not as big as it says it is. People go to church years on, the idea is that you go there years on years on years on years, and you're only carrying like two books, like ever. You're reading the same two books every week, just over and over again, and you're not even reading it thoroughly. And the
dude,
idea
I
that
wanted to-
Mhm.
one thing I hated about taking like like a prayer or like the sermon or whatever. Um, when I would get my stuff and study, and I would always like get the Bible and read the they'll point out like certain verses, like topics or verses of the Bible, and I would read them. But I would always love to read from the beginning and read like the whole context of it, and it would never make sense to what their context of, because there was always they would pick verses out the Bible, but they would make it fit into Nason, not really like of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, can you separate Nason for a bit? Can we just learn about what happened in this time lapse of the Bible? Like educate ourselves a little bit more on why this is happening and whatever, like all this stuff, and like a study, like kind of like a history. And I like that I like that I would learn a bit of the context of the Bible, but then I would get lost because then I would have to like squeeze Nason in the picture, and it had to be about him, or it had to be about like La Luz del Mundo timeline, and not the study of it. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, yeah, it just I
That
just
makes
hated
sense.
I hated that. Um, You know, I would always watch. I would always try to like find like not shortcuts, but I would go like on YouTube and put up like if the topic was about, like, let's just say being more generous with money. I would go in YouTube and look up other people's points of view, and I like their points of view way better than actually like the point of view of La Luz del Mundo. Because La Luz del Mundo, it was always, if it was about money or being generous, it was always like, we're bad people, we don't give enough, like you're stealing God's money and this and that. And then in YouTube, other people's points of view would be like so much clear, so much different, just like an actual in-depth of the context of what it is to be generous, and do you have to give money, and like other ways of being generous, and and a lot of it didn't have to do with money too. It was crazy. And then if I ever like doubted or thought differently, then I would think, oh well, it's the devil trying to make me think wrong of the church. They're wrong, but not the church. And it was
Mhm.
always like a huge headache, bro. It was always a
Yeah,
huge, and I know members know what I'm talking about because they go through that too.
for sure. What I'll say to that is, I think one of the things you're trying to get at is how, in La Luz del Mundo, the Bible is treated as different, as a different like uh it exists on different levels. So on one level, it's like historical, where it provides, narratives of change over time, like for example, at the start of Genesis, or maybe like at one of the other Old Testament books, where it's talking about this king followed by this person, followed by, it has historical elements to it. But then on another level, in La Luz del Mundo, it exists where it talks about, like everything that happened in the Old Testament, and then like the changes with the New Testament. And then it exists at, where it talks about Jesus, where it talks about that kind of change in religion, and change in how to read that text. Because, if you start at the Bible, you start in the beginning. And the La Luz del Mundo recognizes that once you get to the New Testament, and you get in, and you start realizing what that whole other segment is about. uh that whole other segment at this level is about the change of religion. And so it's about like, hey, here's how religion was right back then, but then here's how it's even more right now, thinking about Jesus and salvation through that way. And then another level that it exists for La Luz del Mundo is about, oh, the apostles. How does this tie into our story, like our made up story, our our lore, lore, or our canons, or our self, made story. And then so it exists at that level too, where, and that's at that level, that is where I would say a lot of that nitpicking goes on, that you say, where like the people, the pastor will be like, okay, before we sit down and listen to my explanation, go to, turn this page, this chapter, this verse, read this. Okay, let's sit down. And yeah, we maybe skipped over, 500 pages or maybe 50 pages in that one book of the Bible, but still, right here in this quote, what's going on here? This is going to start off my explanation, and then, okay, here's the explanation of church stuff. And La
Yeah,
Luz Mundo like recognizes that, um that other religions and other versions of Christianity have existed before them, but they say that they're all wrong. And then they say that, like, okay, but we're right. And we're so right to the point that we can just go back to a certain book and read a couple sentences, and that will, and here's, and we can start right here, and we're perfect, even if we just talk about these two sentences here, or this, a certain, different sets of examples. um I was gonna say like
bro,
one more thing, but
you nailed
yeah,
it.
yeah,
You,
I'm done.
you got
Go on.
you got it spot on when you said that. That's exactly what I wanted to say. I just don't know how to say it. How they'll start with the verse, they'll read it, and then they just throw the book away, and then they just give out their point of view of how it applies to the church and so on, and it's how it applies to us. And it's kind of like them. I feel like it's kind of like them putting themselves in the biblical timeline, but in today's time. But they
Yeah,
take from the Bible and then they just apply it to us. And now we're living like the Bible time now. in today's time, because we are
Yeah.
the church. And like, and I feel like they've always done that. I feel like they've always taken like things that events that happen in the Bible, and they kind of like try to like give it like a little, like a, I don't know, like a mixture of an LLDM twist to it, and how we're living it today, and it's like to make us feel like we're the church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Did you ever get
like
that?
for example, what Casa Cultural Berea has is, do you remember like let's say like a decade ago, there were Bibles going around where, or books going around that the church, that the publishing wing of the church was putting out, and the books were like a hymnal book, which changes over time. La Luz del Mundo changes its diet of different hymnal books, but it had a hymnal book, and then it had a Bible section, and then it had another section where it was like an archive of Samuel Joaquin's letters to the church, and he's like writing. Let's say he's in Los Angeles and he writes from there. He's somewhere else and he writes from there. Um, it's weird. It's boring,
And
right? I never owned one of these things, but like that's one example of how they try to um conjoin themselves. Their restorationist church. They try to sell that everyone else has been wrong since for the past 1,000+ years, and we're the ones that right. It took this long for us to come along and be right.
dude, yeah, man, dude, and just the thought of, I would always tell people from like 1926, before Aaron was called the first apostle, everybody else behind that went to hell. That's wild, dude. And I would tell that to people. Be like, yeah, they all went to hell. All these people that died without no apostle on earth or whatever, like they all went to hell. And like, yeah, like man, that's like, I get embarrassed to think that now, because
Hmm.
how did I look, bro? Or to people, to just say, yeah, they all went to hell, dude. Like why? Like because there was no apostle. So
Hmm.
what? Yeah, there's one alive right now. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no like, I guess, that's one way of, when you're a member and you're just in it, and that's kind of, let's say, like all it's normal for you to just say that to yourself in your head for days on end. But then
Yeah.
like if the church was a place where there was a lot of where there was like a culture of debate, an actual hardcore scholarship of religious history and all that stuff. Like let's say like all these people, all these members go to church with like the same two books like all the time. um what if the churches had full-on libraries of just all kinds of books that everyone's reading and debating, and like everyone can cite. The church tries to do that. The sermons are like teaching people about how to talk about any topic or whatever, giving people like examples of verses from the Bible. And then later on, when someone like, let's say later on you're tasked with giving a talk like that, you can go back to your notes and just pick out, what you've been reading already. But anyways, there's like the church is reading. They're just reading the same book over and over again, and they're not reading other books. And there's already set like topics. The topics can be repeated days on end. And then like what else was I going to say? Another thing I remember from church is that there would be like little competitions where in like, let's say like a kid studies, there was a competition for who could turn to the page like the quickest in the Bible and start reading it out loud. I remember seeing that. I was never exactly good at it, but other people were really good at it. And the flip side of it is that it's tragic, because that's just like that itself wasn't exactly helping anybody. I do remember the books of the Bible, and it's helpful to know that in your head to be able to reference this big book. But the point is that like it's still a big book. And even when it comes to like really knowing the big book, the church is not actually invested in trying to, the organization at large is not invested in trying to actually have everybody be super duper good at it. But if they were super duper good at it, and they could be like, crazy like citers of the Bible as it tied to La Luz del Mundo, then then there'd be like billions of members. But that's not the case.
Yeah, I wanted to say that like let's just say they get away with all this talk, right? With like, like members should take a look at this, right? So they get all this talk, all these verses, and they apply it to what's their lives or the church and whatever. But when are we gonna see like actual like actions, right? Like they talk about all this stuff like authority and Bloom and magical powers and like we're the only church, and it's like okay, like they have the only truth and nobody can out like talk to them about anything. They have all the answers. Okay, let's just say that. But when are you gonna like give us some actions too, like some miracles or some magical powers, right? And then right now, what they're going through with Nason, in jail and everything that's happening is like we're still waiting. We still haven't seen anything, and it's about damn time, like we see something, and man, I don't think Nason is having a good time in jail right now with those charges. And I'm pretty sure, I think I mentioned this before, being in prison with those charges, bro, like people like that are always on green light. And what that means is it's a term they use in jail or in prison. When you're in jail with those charges, like, you know, you're they see you, anyone sees you, and they know, what you're in for. Anyone has to like they have to, you know, get you because if you don't, then you're gonna get it. You know what I mean? Like it's like a law that they go by in prison. Anybody with those kind of charges, like these guys are always getting hurt. They're always getting beat up. They get punked. At the minimum, they get punked, but they go through way more than that. These are horrible charges, and being in prison, a lot of these guys. I watch interviews with guys. The reason why they do that is because like these guys, a lot of these guys miss their family. They're in prison doing time. They wish they can hold their babies, and just to know that there's a guy in there who is doing that to like little, girls or stuff like that is just, I don't know. It just it sparks a something in them, and they just can't stand knowing that there's a guy in there. I mean, I don't really know the whole culture of it, but I know for sure, like I think that someone's gotten hurt a couple of times, or I think he's gotten jumped or beat up. But obviously, the church is not going to put it up or put it out, And I mean, think about it. I'm pretty sure something has happened already, but
Yeah.
but I'm surprised that church hasn't came out with like any more like stories. Like, yeah, they tried to hurt him, but a big cloud came above him, and you know everybody just started like praying and nobody touched Nason, or they stabbed him or something happened to him, and like he was okay. An
Yeah.
angel came down and touched his belly, and the the blood went away, or I don't know, like
Like like
something.
like like Daniel in the lion's den, like some biblical story, like that.
Yeah, and
That's
I
not
think that
happening.
they haven't said anything like any that he's gone beat up or jumped or something like that. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 100%. But that the church pastors have came out like they used to back then, and come up with this crazy like magical miracle that something happened with angels. I think they stopped because remember at the beginning when he went to jail, they
Yeah.
tried to put that their old tricks of saying like all these angels, or I remember, I don't think if you heard, but like I think Benjamin or someone said that in the LA County jail, like there was like a bunch of like an angel or something of something magical, like I don't know what it was, but um it had to do with the officer saying that there was like something like not normal, right? Something that was like protecting this dude in jail. But
The guard, like the guard saw it, like the guard
yeah,
saw something.
awesome,
Yeah.
bro. And it's like now I feel like all that everybody that didn't end well, right? Everybody starts talking smack that was all lies, and I think
Mhm.
they stopped saying all these like little, these little miracle stories because they're gonna get called out on it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they finally said like, you know what, we need to stop with these little stories because we're gonna overdo it, and members
Yeah.
are gonna, members are gonna really wake up and be like, you know what, they're just bullshitting us for sure. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
come on.
They have to have some concept of like what does it mean to overdo it. And
Yeah.
you know, to talk about like so recently in the past couple of weeks, a couple of weeks ago, there were rumors going around that um that Nason was hurt in jail seriously, but then it turned out that it didn't happen after like a day or two of, you know, not knowing exactly, but people were claiming that something bad had happened to him. And then for me, like you know, uh, he said yes, Alvarado. He had had a tweet where he contacted somebody, and I think they said that nothing had happened to him. No one has seen any pictures, you know, no one is citing any pictures or any report or anything like that. But it was just a rumor that went around, and I thought it was interesting because, you know, I would want some sort of proof that that happened, but then not also like as a perverse thing. Like I don't necessarily want him to get hurt. I you know, incarceration is fascinating. California is the incarceration capital of the planet. It's such a strange uh, um, aspect of, you know, of modern life to think about. But and I'm like, at some, you know, philosophical level, I'm an abolitionist of all sorts of incarceratory like facilities and systems. But in the case of Nason, you know, I understand why people want him away. The thing is that where you take him is you end up taking him to these facilities that require so much money and resources, etc., and that this guy is, you know, there with other people who have done serious, you know, other serious crimes. You know, they haven't done the same kind of crimes as him, which, you know, he wasn't throwing anybody off of rooftops or nothing, but you know, there's people in there that have thrown other people off of rooftops, and like you're saying, you know, that there's these people, you know, people that are miss their families, um, um, that you know, they miss their families. They themselves as kids were probably harmed, and then, you know, that they want to take that out on somebody who they know has harmed kids. There's probably ways of figuring it out, like maybe word of mouth. I don't know what that's worth, but then also maybe calling like the registry. Isn't there like a registry on the phone that you can call to figure out if somebody or something is it has a history of sexual assault or something like that? What is it called? Megan's Law? But do you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Like, you know, there's ways of those of that information getting in there. But yeah, what are you trying to say?
Oh no, dude, I just remembered. So right at where I live at, there's like a prison. There's two prisons like 10 minutes away. Not even like five. And I just remember, dude, like my wife told me a story of and it happened here, dude. Literally, this guy got this cellmate decapitated his own cellmate, bro. I don't know why, but they went in there and they saw that his body like laying like this, and his head, you know, off, and that wasn't even like, I don't know if it was a guy with the same charges as Nason, but I mean, it gets, just to give people like the seriousness of what happens, you know, in prisons. I don't think it even gets covered on the news, but it's bad. Like if you do your research on YouTube and you see how it is in prison, like how bad it is, especially guys who are in there with charges like Nason, like it's serious. It's serious stuff. You know, they don't go in there a couple years and not get a scratch or touched. Like they get lucky if they come out. It's pretty bad, you know. And it's funny how like obviously they're not gonna like, the pastors are not gonna say this, you know, to the members, but I wonder like if something ever did happen. Not that I wish anything happens to him, right? Like I really, you know,
Mm.
but if something did happen and he's no longer here, like how would they even, I don't even think they would even tell the members like right away. I think because think about it, like they would have to plan a whole strategy out, like what would happen. I think that's very interesting. We should probably make this another video. Like if something was to happen, like how would the church react, you know, with no plan, no strategy? Because remember, if you remember back with Samuel, they kind of already had time to plan it out. They kind of had like, okay, he's got a
Yeah.
couple weeks left, let's plan this out. And they planned it out pretty well, right? They have everybody awake 24/7, weak, tired. But I think if something happened right now, bro, like I think, I don't know, what are your thoughts? Like, well, what do you think how would you think this whole thing would play out? How would you think the members would react? What do you think the pastor would say? And who would, I mean, what kind of who will they try to put up front, or what kind of system will they try to like use to like kind of run the church, knowing that the apostles, like without an apostle, according to them, like there's no church, nothing can
Mhm.
function, there's no salvation. So like I don't know, that's just wild to like think about. You know what I mean? Like, because it could happen at any moment. It can happen. I'm not saying it wants to have. I want it to happen because I'm smiling. All I'm
Yeah.
saying, but it's crazy, dude. Like this is real.
Yeah, it's for real. Yeah, like yeah, I was just thinking right now, for the charges that he's in there for a certain amount of time, and that, him getting the death penalty was never a question, but like he's going to be in there for a certain amount of time. He has the new federal charges that are coming, so that might even add more time. He's going to have to be back there and being, let's say, paradoxically like saying it, but he needs a caretaker. The state needs to feed him and keep him alive insofar as his body can until it expires. So basically, the idea is that for the rest of his life, he's going to be in there. And if his body's not going to get to him, somebody might get to him. There's other, horrible things going on. But then, at the same time, but then also the state is going to be, keeping him in his own room or maybe down the hall from other people or something like that. Or maybe have one person assigned to him. We don't know what that is. We don't know what his toilet looks. We don't know what that actual facility looks like, but um, there's dangers there. And it is possible that he can be in there. We know that he was gonna, I guess not at first, and while he was in jail or whatever initial holding facility he was in, but now that he's been transferred to Chino, California, we could do a lot of fucking research into like what's going on there and what contact looks like between inside and outside. And then yeah, I don't want anything necessarily bad to happen to him, but it is a possibility. And the church and then like the higher ups up top have to be, must have some sort of idea or plan or something in place, have some thinking ready for when and if that does happen, and how to respond to it. And then number one, like how to retain the church. How do we retain people? How do we even use this to like get more people in?
Yeah.
Have like a new
You know,
apostle and whatnot.
now that I think about it, maybe they do have like a plan played out in case, because they probably have to be ready, because even the pastors can't do nothing to, they can't put the red carpet for me and you to jump over so this guy can walk. They have no control. They can't do anything to keep this guy safe in there. That, I mean, maybe with the money and the power, maybe, I don't know, maybe something can be done, like as far as it being like a high profile case, maybe like the government or the state would consider something, like they would try to like attack this guy's life or something like that. But I mean, uh what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm pretty sure that the pastors or the elite pastors are well aware that at any given moment, something can happen, and I'm pretty sure they have like like a plan or something to to have just in case something does happen, just to
Yeah.
be ready, not get caught off guard, right? Now I don't know how that's gonna work out or how that's gonna play out, but I don't know. I think LLDM has too much dirt on his name to even consider him an apostle and the next apostle. And even if he did, it's kind of like way, come on, that's way too much. First the great grandparent, the great grandfather, the grandfather, the son, and now the great grandkid. And it's like, yo, like,
It's,
you know,
it's
like I don't
what
know.
are you doing?
It's just
Yeah.
way, you know what I'm saying? It got way too like weird, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then tying that back to when we were talking about Ben Hameen and other parts of his other parts of the Joaquin family that may be like, let's say, probably like trying to vie for power, trying to go and grab power, take this as like an opportunity to phase Nason out and get themselves in. I don't know. I don't know who would jump in. I don't think there's probably like the only two people that matter are like Benjamin and then Uziel. And then there's someone like Adoraim, who is Nason's only son. And then, I don't know what the church, like how the church survives into future iterations and how that family, how the families, work out. But, so much of it is concentrated around the Joaquins. And um, I, I, I don't, I wonder what they have to think, but they're probably definitely thinking about, the fact that this guy could get hurt And it may, it is worth at least thinking about these things, because members should ask themselves that, like, um, it's taken a lot, the system at large, it takes a lot for someone to end up in this environment. And now that this guy is, in this environment, there's dangers that loom over his head. I found that story that you said about the guy decapitating, beheading another person. Yeah, I found what that was. And I mean,
All these look
I don't
into
know, those people around, bro. Like they could, they could do something.
bro. Yeah, dude, crazy. My brother, I had a brother in prison, bro. He did like 7 years. And dude, he has stories like for sure. And it's like, I mean, maybe because it's prison and they don't really put down the news, but it's wild, dude. It's pretty wild. Um, it's just like, man, I mean, maybe we should make a video of the reality of prison for, and kind of like make it like a Nason edition. I don't know, like not that that's what he's going through, but just to give a video of the reality, the seriousness of what people have gone through, like how it is, because it's pretty interesting, dude. Like how these guys get treated.
Hmm.
It's intense, it's extreme, and it's pretty scary. Um, and it's not well, and Nason is no different, Members can probably think like, no, there's a lot of angels around him everywhere he goes. But me and you know the truth, and we know like this guy is out there dodging bullets. He's I don't know, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting to just, you know, especially in Chino. I mean, I wonder what the violence is in Chino, in the Chino prison. It would be nice to like go to YouTube and just check out like Chino, California prison, and see what it's like. Because every prison, if you YouTube like prison stories, like every prison had like a crazy story, or things that happen in that certain prison, and maybe we'll find something about Chino.
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
know.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say that uh there's this new reality that the church exists in, and it has to, it's always it's always been in like survival mode, and right now especially it's in survival mode, and I don't know how it'll exist into the future, but those dangers exist. And these members have to realize that the elephant in the room, you don't have to live with it. Like you don't have to live exploring your religious questions and whatnot in this organization. You can do it in other ways. You don't have to do it here, because
Yeah.
what's going on here is not as nice as it seems. Um, I was
I
gonna
want
say
to.
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, yeah, yeah. I thought Aim isn't gonna be, it isn't as charismatic. Like you need a charismatic figure at the head of this thing, to like to represent it. And I don't think kind of like Son Hokin is like Joe Biden, and in like the Democratic Party. It's like who else would actually get up and like challenge the guy? And and Nason, and no one else can, no one else is like really obvious as like the person that would, step into the limelight and take this thing over. But I would like to think that, the church and how it exists online, and how its present like leader is right now present in a system of incarceration. I'm not optimistic that they can like survive, but they'll find out how to.
I have this like wild thought right now. It's a possibility, right? I mean, I don't know. It's pretty wild, but let's just say like it's just like it just popped in my head, right? Like because you mentioned Benjamin, right, his brother, and realistically, I wonder if Benjamin was like jealous or upset that Nason took the throne and not him. I don't know how that played out. I didn't mention to you like off recording that um, I think maybe Benjamin had too much like stuff going, or like dared on him, or done stuff to where like the church wouldn't be convinced if this guy was the next apostle. So maybe that's why Nason had to take the throne or whatever. But I wonder, like, let's say, like, what if, like, right now, like the elites are like for sure that there's they can't put Adoraim as the next apostle. So they're thinking like, man, well, this is probably the end. So we need to start, coming up with like something. And like I was thinking like, what if Benjamin, bro, just comes up with this like story, right? And says like, you know what, they lied to us. I was lied to as well, placed like a victim. And how about you guys just come with me, and we can just figure it out, and try to take a part of the church. I don't know, because I don't see how they're gonna. I think this is the end, bro. You know what I'm saying? I think they don't have. I just can't think of anything that they like to put another apostle. Like who? I just don't see anybody. I really don't. I think even if they try, I think it would just backfire like bad. So I think it's the end, and it's gonna just clash into like a division. And I won't, man, dude. I heard rumors. Remember I was talking to you about it, and this dude named Emblemas TV. He was saying something, but this guy's a joke. This guy's a joke,
Mhm.
right? But I'd have to do more, like some more research. I don't know, but I think something. I don't know. I think this an apostle after an assault. I don't think that's gonna be something that they're gonna try to do. I just don't see it, bro. I'm just not convinced. Even if I was a member, I'd be like, nah, another one. Like, when's God gonna come? Y'all been saying this for years.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there's gonna be a division, and I want to say Benjamin is gonna try to like you know, pull a little trick under his sleeve and say, "Hey, man, they lied to me too, bro." Like, I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think is
Yeah,
gonna?
Benjamin was the encargado where I was when I was born. And, I never met the dude, but I guess I have like early memories of of being around this person and his family as like a kid around church settings. But yeah, I don't really know what's in there to like psychoanalyze and stuff. But, um, it could be the case that there's been a conversation had about like, well, what if we put, Benjamin at the front? And in terms of like, people taking, someone like a schism happening amongst the church where someone high up, like let's say like a Benjamin starts talking to church people and gets them to separate from the church somehow, or just takes over. And I don't know what that looks like. Like, I don't know what that looks like online. Like, how is that distributed? How do you get people to churches? Who retains ownership of all these churches? Do certain like churches like not go away in terms of ownership and affiliation to La Luz del Mundo? Um,
Yeah,
I don't know what that looks like, but like that these people aren't in the limelight. Like they don't seem to be want to do anything right now. Like they seem to just be hiding because of the fact that Nason is away. At some point these people stopped going to the court hearings. And then insofar as I know, I rarely see I feel like it would be hard to find a video of the family members like giving a sermon or something like that. They definitely have. Like, I know that. I've heard snippets here and there, but like I've never heard them do anything to try to change the church and try to take over, take the helm away from Nason. Because Nason's not even really like talking. He's
I mean, isn't that
he's just
wild too?
writing.
That
Uh-huh.
I think it's wild that like Nason's family kind of like what happened to them. Like I haven't heard anything at all. I did hear like when he first went to jail, and Benjamin came out, and Luciel, they were saying like before he was before the case. This is like early when he first went to jail. But after that, dude, like I haven't even like I don't know like seen a picture of them that someone like leaked or something. Like I wonder where they're at. It's just kind of like
Yeah,
I,
I wonder where
what do you,
they're at, and I don't. What were you gonna say?
I think what do you think they're probably up to? I feel like they're doing something, bro. Like
They just have to be hiding and sort of like collapsing assets, and I'm sure something like that has been going on. Properties have been sold, like we know that from like Isaías Alvarado's reporting. We know properties have been sold. We know that they have like a collection of cars here and there
oh
that
yeah.
maybe can be sold, and then that money transferred to like to lawyers to help for the defense and whatnot, but or for bail. But bail never happened. But I'm sure money is like moved around, but I don't think I don't. It's complex. It's all over the place. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of people. Or it may not. And then probably at the top, it's not a lot of people. But I I have the same questions that you have about, I don't know what this looks like for everybody going
And
forward.
from what I now know in this, like, from like pastors, how, I guess Nason and Benjamin always had like a kind of like a feud, or they just never really seen eye to eye, even before he went to jail. But I want to say, like, Benjamin's probably like, hey, Nason's screwed. He ain't getting out. This is reality. And then with the federal case coming in, I think Benjamin's picking up all his chips, cashing in what he can, and he's probably ready to, because he haven't been seen, bro. You know what I'm saying? I
Hmm.
mean, I haven't seen him. I haven't heard nothing of him. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's just ready to just screw everything, just take what he can. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't. There's so many options. There's so many, man. There's so many ways this thing can play out. Man, it's gonna be interesting in the next couple of years, for real.
Yeah, even in just the past 4 years, it's been crazy. It's been so much. I feel like, a lot has happened, even though, as we lived it, like it felt really slow and it felt really quiet, for long periods of time. It'll be like that in the future. There'll be long periods of time where it's quiet, and it may feel quiet like right now, but, in the future, something has to budge, so something has to give somewhere, and some major announcement or something might happen, and and I and I feel like the church like just has to dwindle. Like I would like to think, like, at large, like even just beyond like church and this like community that we talk to. I'd like to think that in the larger scheme of things, are just the way we talk to each other, the way we transmit information through the internet or whatever, will help to keep groups like La Luz del Mundo like dwindled and down, and like uh like in without, like, without life, in order to to kill it off, because things like this just can't survive. And um and uh um I remember when this happened in the early summer of 2019. And like I said, and like we were talking about, like, I remember when this first happened in June 2019, and I felt crazy. Like, there was just, everything felt crazy, like maximum levels of like crazy, and reorienting myself, and wanting to read a lot online, and stay online, and like um change my way of thinking about everything. And then like a couple weeks later, like in July, is when the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing happens. And that's even crazier, there's just so much to talk about. I'm vastly interested in that. And then of course, like, again, a couple months later, like the whole COVID thing happens. And then say like the election of 2020, and then there's a lot of events that have gone on to like add different levels of crazy to all these members. But I would like to think that members and people outside of like church can like find ways of just being better about like having to handle this shit, and like having and being able to talk amongst themselves about what's right and what's wrong, and in the institutions that they're a part of.
Yeah, I feel like if something big happens to where like it's obvious that they were lied to, and it's like without a doubt, like let's say Nason just came out and said, like just confesses to everything in jail just to get. Let's just say that happened, right? Like, to get a shorter
Yeah,
sentence.
yeah, he could
Now
just.
he's on video and saying and explaining everything, and just just giving it all out. Let's just say he just had enough. He just can't keep on with July anymore. He's in jail. He's stressed out. He wants to just find any type of way to get a deal and just get out. And let's just say that happened, and this is without an undeniable. Let's just say that something crazy like that happened, and the members, and then Benjamin said, "Well, he lied. Well, we're sorry, we lied." And let's just say that happened, right? And it's like the family, Joaquin family, just say the truth, came out and say the truth. I think members wouldn't even be so shocked. I think maybe like the elderly would, right? But I think members like now, they probably like I feel like they feel something, and something like that just wouldn't be as maybe there would be like a shock, like a they would feel something, but it wouldn't be like a shocker. You know what I mean? Like if now someone wasn't in jail, let's
Yeah.
just say let's say he's out here on tour and it just says, "Hey, I'm lying," then that'd be different. But so much events have happened, bro. Like to where I feel like I feel like it would just relieve people. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, at least we know the truth then. You know, I feel like they just been there just because, like we said before, like the community, they like to be around the community. They like to say hi to people. They like to, it's because it's their life, you know, it's like part of their life now. But I
Mhm.
don't think it, you know, I don't even think, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
them just kind of feel like at ease, a relief. Like, well, at least
I,
now
you
we know.
know, yeah.
At least we put an end to this freaking misery. You know, all these years, this guy's in jail. He's getting out. He's not. Now a federal case. Now this and now that. It's like I feel like it would just relieve people at this point. I don't know. What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, so the whole situation for the past like 4 years has affected everybody. Like I don't think anybody is even like lukewarm. If you like, like if you are lukewarm about this whole thing and like the people around you are like lukewarm about it, then that just means that you guys weren't even really in it, and we're kind of not really even really talking to you. Like we're talking to the people who have been stressed for one in whatever angle about the situation. From stress from the angle of like, okay, this is my opportunity to get out. This is so confusing. I hate living with the elephant in the room. I got to do something. Who do I talk to first, etc. Or you can be the kind of person who's like in it, crazy in it, goes every day. All their family members go every day, and they're genuinely like in the ignorance is bliss kind of mindset about it. Like still, even they have to be stressed to some sort of level because this whole thing has really changed for them. And they had to do church online, on Zoom through the pandemic, and they gotta, they're just living their life. Everyone is stressed to some degree or another, and I would like to think that at some point there can be something big that just has like a shutting up effect of a lot of people and can really like get them to to just accept that they were wrong about this and get to move on with their lives. But in terms of like us, the environment that we've been in, so far the environment has been like, number one, from the start, the church made it one where it was like ignorance is bliss. Don't listen to anybody else. We are only right. Just continue to come here. Everything is a challenge from the the spiritual enemy. And I and like you were saying, it is definitely like possible, like just possible that Nathan just feels bad one day and he somehow convinces the 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 prison authorities and the judge or whoever else to help let him make a video to ask for forgiveness or something. Like, that's possible. I don't think it'll happen, but that's possible. And like, um, I wonder what it would take for these people. Like, and we point that out because, it sucks that right now for the members that are still stuck in this thing that are, let's say, maybe stubborn. Everyone has had doubting thoughts, but like how we've all dealt with them, the people who have dealt with them in the worst way possible and that are still in the church,
And
I would hope that this is like, that's what will just, snap them out of it and
I
get them to
yeah,
accept that they're wrong.
I know that's kind of extreme to say that not someone would do something like that, but it's a big possibility. Now with this federal case, let's just say the federal case comes, and I feel like, bro, I'm almost like I'm like, man, I'm almost sure that he ain't getting out, right? The federal don't come after you unless they got you, right? They don't waste their time, especially the state's money. Anyways, so let's just say, I mean, think about it. What I mean, come on. If Nason knows that he ain't getting out, he got sentenced. He lost the federal. Let's just say he lost the federal case. He's in there for life. They told him already. They sentenced him. He ain't never getting out. Like, why would he want to put up with keep lying or playing this like life, while he's rotting in prison? Like, what is he getting out of it? What has he got to lose at that point? You know, I feel like out of maybe like just being desperate or just being miserable or just like something. I don't know, bro. Like it's gonna
Or
suck.
like one thing I was thinking about was like, what if Benjamin tries to take over and like make a schism, and then like and then Nathan somehow, from prison is like, okay, well, I'm gonna, put you in check, and actually I'm gonna expose you for trying to take this over, like something like that.
Bro, yeah, because at that
There's a
point,
lot
bro,
of dynamics, going on.
what does Nason have to lose? Nason, boy, if he's doing life in jail, but what does he got to lose, bro? At least he wants just a peace of mind in there. You know what I'm saying? Than to be dealing with all this crap, than to be like the apostle that got sentenced to life, and now he's got to leave the church from prison. Come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like something's gonna burst. Um, there's just so many things involved, like money, properties, jealousy, just man, bro, family feud, just a lot of stuff, bro. And not only that, but like Nason's family, like his son, his side of the family that maybe wants properties or it's claiming maybe money or you just never know, bro. There's so much stuff going on, and I feel like that's one big part why Benjamin and Luciette and the whole fucking family, bro, they're just out of the picture. I feel like they're at war. I have a strong feeling because there's a lot of money here, a lot of money, and we haven't heard nothing. What are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, but who knows, man?
Yeah, for sure, bro. There's a lot of dynamics in play. I wonder what will happen in the future, and then as the things happen, we'll tell people here online that we don't necessarily we don't on the channel I don't focus on like breaking any news. I just talk about the sort of you and I talk about the resources for news that we have, and we point people in those directions. But yeah, I'm not gonna break any news to anybody. If I happen to know something important, I'll let people know. But I'm just an observer and, trying to contribute to the conversation online to number one, the front line, the front lines of this whole thing has always been in like people's heads. And, we're trying to get into people's heads to, just help them get out in some sort of way or, find a different way of thinking that'll help them, talk to somebody else about it.
Yeah, I
So,
think it's like when we before we started the video, right? I remember telling you like let's just have a freestyle talk. Like I think people enjoy that more than to like dive in. I think like I mean at least for myself, I like to watch videos or people when they speak freely. It's not planned. It's just what's in their mind, what they're thinking, and just have a nice conversation. Of what you think might happen. Because it's reality. And from our aspects, it's not like we're in the church. Like obviously we're out, and our mind is probably a little more ahead than members who are barely getting out. I feel like um I feel like since we've been out longer, our mental, our we can just like think about stuff differently because I remember when I first got out, I was scared to think a lot of things still. I was like still I wouldn't want to cuss at all, like stuff like that. And
yeah,
then I would get mad at myself because I don't know. It was just like a lot of fear. A lot of fear was still there. So I think the most thing that I enjoy about these videos is that people get to see like us two talking and having a good time without that fear. The progress of us leaving and we're still doing fine. We're okay. We have a really great time, and I really enjoy my time, making these videos and just to have a nice chat. Like it's
yeah,
okay, bro. When I first started looking into Nacional's case, bro, I was scared, dude, of my life, and this like I think I made a lot of progress. You know what I'm saying, with myself, with my just with my my mental, like my thought process. Like I feel so, and that's the really the freedom that I want people to have. Not to have this like live in this fear, or control. It could be a lot of things, but
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I recognize that, our frame of thinking is like kind of years down the line than from other people. The things that maybe initially go through people's minds when they're first trying to get out, however that looks like, like we said in other videos, it looks differently for everybody. And um, there's ways of taking the conversation from that early stuff that, I'm willing to talk about all day long, but then, I'm trying to get to like other things, and to try to connect just a bunch of other ideas together in order to see what clicks and to help people get out or help themselves on that path to like getting rid of the doubt and getting rid of those lingering that lingering fear or like that lingering idea that like, God is like watching over you like you're taught to think like you're taught to think that nation is watching you all the time and you can't fuck up because
and it
you know,
helps a lot
yeah,
to watch two guys just talk about this, like like just like normal people, like just to, like when I would watch people to make videos and talk about like a song and the whole thing, like they were normal people. Like at first, yeah, it would be like, but then I would like, oh, like it would like so so good, like you know what I mean, like normal, like I don't know, like it's like a sense of like becoming a normal person, like, hey, I like that. I would like the fact that people didn't live in this like, but this like thing on your chest type thing. So I hope people get that from our videos, that, what I'm saying? Like that,
Mhm.
um, it's just like the freedom of, or the help or the clarity, you know, it feels good. It feels good to be mentally out. It feels really good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I want, I want everyone else to get to that point and get to the point where, maybe they are like, exploring their religious questions or whatnot, but they can do it in such a way where it's not benefiting this weird organization that, shouldn't exist. And like I've tried to say already, when I think about like La Luz del Mundo and the community that and things that people were looking over and not questioning and not like standing up to say something, um, when I look back on that, like, I want that for like, just other aspects of my life. I have to live with other people and I gotta, I want the conversation at large. I want the discourse, the immune system to it to be good. Like I don't want it to be a thing where this guy like or like in church people like Mason can just like sell these religious ideas all day long and make a bunch of money and start doing crimes and take advantage of people, and then the people not even doing anything necessarily for themselves to like stand up to it. I
Yeah,
don't want that. I don't want that seeping into other parts of my life or the environments around me.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, um, yeah, it just feels good. If I enjoy reading the comments. I I just like that people get to watch them, and it has to help in some way. Um,
Yeah.
I always say this. It'd be nice to like for me and you to like have like if I was to like when I was first getting leaving church and to see a video of two guys talking about what's going on and just like see if their mindset, their thought process, and how they freely talk about it, like it really does help. You know what I mean? Just to just to see it, dude. Like I think it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you mean. I don't know, bro. Is it the past so like in a couple of days is Nathan's whole anniversary of taking over church, and it's the right now it's like the seventh year anniversary of no ninth year anniversary of of someone dying and this new like era in La Luz del Mundo, and like looking back on it, like it was already facing a lot to have to survive, and like right now we're seeing what how much more it has to survive against, and the fact that the dogma was so strong that it got to the point that it got to this breaking point that a lot of perversion of power just went on for way too long, and it's come back to bite them in the butt. I you know I'm people are probably in Guadalajara. I haven't necessarily seen any pictures or anything, but like life is still like going on over there, and people are still getting married, and like you can look up the social media pages. You won't find any pictures of Nason and shit. Like you won't find his name. You'll maybe see his logo in like the back of a picture or something, like in the side of a temple. But still, like here's the thing that is really frustrating is that like the church is using normal members, their faces, their likely their likenesses, their lives, their own honorability and their own innocence, that at large,
For
to
sure.
to smuggle it into Nason. And they're not showing pictures of him and shit, but they're trying to make themselves look good in front of the government, like in this way. And then actually inside those temples, what's going on is there's just a bunch of money being shoveled into the commissary of a guy over in Chino, California.
No, yeah, for sure, dude. Um, I've always thought about that in a way like um Nason would always hide behind the members' innocence, like members don't see Nason's life, members see other members' lives, they see them working hard, and then the guy gets up on the stadium or on the on the stage and just say, "Oh, this is what Nason has taught us, and this is Nason, and this is the teaching of Nason." So they kind of like they just like members see all this like what members go through, the tears, the hard work, and then they just want to put Nason and give him the credit, right? And then the
Yeah.
members think, "Oh yeah, well, this is what Nason taught us." And like, what have you seen Nason doing? You know what I mean? Like I haven't. Who has? You know what I mean? He's out there just spending all his money in the soccer tournaments over there in Russia or whatever. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
know. I was just thinking about that. I
Yeah,
just
it's
always think
wild.
about that one. It's my
Wow,
favorite.
but I like how you point that out. It's I like that.
It's
No,
it's that, and people, the people aren't getting anything out of it. They're just they're being used in that way, and they get religious teachings, and they get the whole religious family and the benefits of that community. But for fun to, but then when it comes down to like what else they're getting, they're not getting TED Talks like all day long in the churches. They're not like even the churches aren't like invested in trying to alleviate the poor conditions that some of its members are in. Like the church was like very clear about not being like a charity, not providing like any stuff to like a homeless family that shows up to its door. Like it's only there to serve a certain community, and then that community is there to serve the family and the hierarchy, the what are they called, the piggy banks of the church. I appreciate getting to talk to you about this stuff. I'm definitely thinking about it, and like I don't know if we mentioned in the recording or not, but I'm writing like a paper on this. I'm trying to put these things together in my head and trying to like see how I can transmit all this weird shit to somebody who's not part of this church, and like getting to see it for what it is, and then also getting to see how members see it, and
yeah,
how those disparities just happen to exist like within the church. I've been thinking about this stuff, and so I appreciate getting to talk to you about it.
yeah, for
Do you
sure.
have
And
anything you want to say to like wrap things up?
well, I want to talk about your project, the LLDM thing you're doing, and man, dude, I'm actually excited to hear about it. In the next video or whenever it's done, I think it'll be interesting to hear.
Yeah,
'Cause obviously not on camera, you're actually putting thought into it, and you're very you have this like you have a lot of history and a lot of things to remember and just to point out. So I'm excited to see what you're gonna create, and hopefully we can watch it on the video. I think
yeah,
people
for
would be
sure.
excited to see that too.
Yeah, I'll let you know, and I'll let other people know that watch this. Just what is it that I end up thinking about. But basically, what it's about right now is just talking about La Luz del Mundo, the history, and then like basic aspects. And then I want to mostly talk about Flowery Branch and like how they're trying to build La Luz del Mundo city over there, and what's happened to it, and how nothing has happened yet, and other things that were going on. And so I've been writing about like all the shit that was happening in the summer of 2019. It was crazy. Like I haven't even gotten to COVID and like the actual conviction and stuff, but yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I appreciate getting to talk to you. I hope that we can talk again soon, and I'll keep in mind like things to write down. We'll keep track of the news, and if people want us to talk about anything specific, we'll do that.
Yeah, yeah. If man, even if like if your audience want to know, like, I don't know, like what would they want to see? A video, maybe not about Nason, but like maybe like weird stuff that we've seen in church, or just like I don't know, just like a random video, just like stuff, just to have like a cool little
Yeah.
video to talk, whatever. I'm down.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's a lot of discussion online, and a lot of it can be in Spanish, and we're kind of unique because it's English, and then we come from a certain background, growing up in LLDM churches in the U.S., and that doesn't speak to everybody's experience, but there's a lot to talk about, and we want to know what we're missing. What is it that's out there that what is it that is not out there that might be useful to have and talk about. And then of course,
Yeah,
like, if people want to come on here and talk to me, and I don't happen to know them, yet, we can figure out what to talk about. I want this to be, I want, productive, things to be going on here. Not just like, shit to just, clog the internet and like just pollute it with just a bunch of stuff. I want it to be something that'll at least do something good somewhere.
yeah. If there's anybody in the comments who you know maybe like I remember in the beginning of your channel, like a lot of them would talk about like the problems with their family members, their parents, and I wonder if maybe they're out now. If anybody has any update on their families, people that have gotten out, maybe your mom or your dad, maybe they're starting to get out. Like if anybody has any updates on how they're doing, they can put them in the comments, because I like to read them, and catch up with people. Some people even go through like divorce. I think someone went through a divorce or something like that, and that's pretty tough. But it's good to just show some support, and just
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah, sure,
what I mean, stuff like that. But for sure,
for
man.
sure. Yeah, that you're definitely right about that. Like, you like people tell us, or maybe people go through things, but they don't want to share it, and that's okay. But if people do feel like sharing it, they can share it. And then, that's also part of the topic too, is about like, people know that they've seen that their family starts to like actually starting to move away a little bit more within the past year or 2 years than early on. And then I was gonna say that um um and the evolution of people like going through the changes, sometimes results in like, difficult things like a divorce happening, or like um or maybe people are getting out of church, and then on top of that they gotta move across the country to a small ass town to do work or something like that. And that's a change that's unique to them, but that compounds to the changes of with like the identity that people had with the church. um
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it goes in a lot of directions, like you say.
Yeah, it can end many different ways. Divorce, family separations, and they feel free to like, ventilate in the comments. I like to know people's situations and just give my little advice, my little input. Whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, for sure, bro. Thank you for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
you got it, man, for sure.
Well,
Do it
I'm
again.
gonna say, we'll say bye to everybody, and we'll stop the recording here. So bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye bye.